1985, Seattle. Eliana Sullivan was the woman everyone wanted to become. She was elegant, connected, untouchable, or so it seemed. Every month, she boarded first-class flights out of the country, telling her husband it was for business expansion, telling young women it was the reward of discipline, telling investors their money was safe. But behind the designer gowns and empowerment speeches, Eliana Sullivan was quietly laundering millions, and the truth was already on its way to the ballroom. Before we begin, please subscribe, like, and share for more suspenseful crime stories. Eliana Sullivan believed power came with presentation. Every morning, she stood before the mirror, flawless, perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect lie. But behind her, Tom Sullivan sat drowning in unpaid bills, paper stacked on paper, red notices, final warnings. "We can't keep doing this, Ellie," he said quietly. "Exposure is coming." But her smile never broke. "We are fine," she replied smoothly. "The gala will fix everything." But what Tom didn't know, the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the layer transfers, or the cartel money moving quietly through their firm. Seattle's professional women admired Eliana. They watched her walk into rooms, how she spoke with certainty, how success seemed to follow her effortlessly. Many of them were genuinely building businesses from nothing. Late nights, real sacrifices, real risk, and still, they compared themselves to her. Some even approached her. "Eliana, how do you scale so fast? What's your secret? I just want to be where you are." Eliana would smile warmly, offer polished advice, host empowerment luncheons. Meanwhile, their legitimate earnings were being used as cover layers in her laundering structure. They were playing chess. She was rigging the board. Every month, Eliana traveled. Cayman Islands, Panama, Colombia, always first class, always business expansion. But Tom never questioned it. He trusted her completely. But investigators later saw the pattern clearly. Placement, layering, integration, classic laundering architecture. Funds moved through Eliana's finance firm, then quietly cleaned through international routes, tied to a powerful narcotics network. By the time the money returned, it looked legitimate, respectable, untouchable, just like Eliana, or so she believed. The long-awaited gala night was finally here. The ballroom shimmered with wealth, champagne flowed, laughter echoed. Women who once admired Eleanor stood proudly in the same room, still inspired by her, still comparing themselves, still unaware. Pete Mason watched from across the room. Oh, Pete Mason is one of Eliana's big investors. He sat there, predatory smile, waiting. "You still owe me," he murmured. Her heart skipped, but her marks held. "Everything is under control," Eliana said. But it wasn't. Judith Walker was not just a quiet observer. She was a financial crimes detective. Methodical, patient, relentless. For 11 months, she had been watching Eliana Sullivan. Not casually, not from a distance, but closely, carefully, building a case, piece by piece. Because Eliana Sullivan had started to appear in places where legitimate businesses rarely existed. At first, the trips looked ordinary. Investment summits, international conferences, private strategy meetings, all perfectly documented, perfectly explained, perfectly polished. But Judith noticed something others didn't. The men Eleanor kept meeting, they didn't look like businessmen. They didn't speak like financiers. They never appeared in legitimate corporate records. That was the first crack. For nearly a year, Judith tracked flight manifests, wire patterns, shell registrations, hotel logs. Every move Eliana made was clean, careful, calculated. Eliana Sullivan was very, very smart. She layered transactions, used intermediaries, rotated accounts, and for a long time, she left no mistakes behind. Until she did. Because every carefully built empire eventually develops a weakness. And Eliana's weakness had a name: Marisa Cole. Once upon a time, Marisa wasn't just an associate. She was Eliana's closest friend, her confidant, her shoulder, her shadow, and then she vanished. For years, no one asked questions. Eliana said Marisa had moved abroad, started over, lost touch, and everyone believed her. Until one quiet morning, Marisa Cole walked into a police station. Thinner, older, but very much alive. Her voice shook when she spoke. "I'm ready to tell the truth about Eliana Sullivan." Marisa's story wasn't simple. It was heavy, painful, but long overdue. She told detectives about the meetings, the cash movements, the pressure Eleanor placed on her to help clean transactions. And then she told them the part that changed the case. She tried to walk away years ago, But Eliana didn't let people walk away. Marisa described the threats, the intimidation, the quiet warnings that followed her for months. I stayed quiet because I was afraid, Marisa admitted. Her voice broke. But I don't have anything left to lose now. The only person who kept me going is gone. And Eliana Sullivan is the reason my life fell apart. Judith listened to every word. Because finally, after 11 careful months, Eliana Sullivan had left the one thing she couldn't erase: a living witness. And now, the gala night was no longer just a social event. It was about to become a reckoning. And then the doors opened and time slowed. Judith Walker stepped inside, calm, steady, unavoidable. I'm here to tell the truth about Eliana Sullivan. The room shifted instantly. Judith's voice was precise. 11 months of investigation, monthly offshore travels, shell corporations in multiple states, and millions laundered for an international narcotics operation. Gasp erupted. Tom turned slowly towards his wife, in confusion, and then realization, and then the heartbreak. You told me this was expansion, he whispered. Judith continued. You hosted women's empowerment events while recycling cartel money through their investment pools. Across the room, faces changed. Women who once admired Eleanor now stared in stunned silence. Some looked hurt, some looked angry, some looked embarrassed they had ever envied her. You made them feel small, Judith said quietly, when you were never playing fair. The evidence hit the table. It was wire transfers, flight records, decoded ledger, signed by Eleanor herself. Pete Mason stepped back. Investors whispered. Tom looked at the floor. You built a lie? He said softly. And just like that, the most powerful woman in the room stood completely exposed. Two months later, the headlines were no longer whispers. There were charges. Formal, public, unavoidable. Eliana Sullivan, once the woman everyone admired, now stood behind the defendant's counter in a quiet Seattle courtroom. No designer spotlight, no champagne, no applause, just cold wood, legal files, and the weight of 11 months of investigation sitting right in front of her. Her auburn hair was still neat, her posture still controlled, but the confidence, it wasn't the same. Across the room, reporters waited, investors watched, and somewhere in the back sat women who once compared their lives to hers. Now they watched in silence. Judith Walker closed her notebook slowly because the story was no longer about exposure. It was about what came next. Eleanor's legal team argued the transactions were legitimate, strategic, misunderstood, but prosecutors were preparing something far bigger, something that could change everything. The question now wasn't whether Eliana had fallen. The question was, would she escape? Eliana Sullivan is awaiting trial, and the evidence against her is complicated. Some say she was the mastermind. Others believe she was just the polished face of a much darker operation. So tell me in the comments, do you think Eliana Sullivan will win this case? Or is her empire finally over? Don't forget to subscribe, like, share for part 2, because the courtroom battle is where the story gets even more dangerous. I'll see you in the next episode.